Hello everybody, thank you for joining me for your, I don't know, I'm not sure what to call this. I guess it's mostly a Mercury Retrograde reading. I feel like Mercury Retrograde gets a bad rep, and so I've decided to do this kind of collective reading to just kind of provide a bit of insight into what you may be reflecting on during the season. I feel like it ends March 10th, I think it is, and then we have the shadow period after that. But I do know Mercury retrograde is a good time to slow down. It is a good time for reflection. And so in order to kind of like provide a bit of comfort and guidance during this time, I'm just doing this reading with the intention of really just trying to provide you with anything you need to know from the universe and spirit to help you during this reflection process. If you feel like you're really caught up in your head during this time, I think this reading is perfect for that. So as you can see, I do have a new light. It's this nice selenite lamp I got for Christmas. But yeah, other than that, everything looks about the same. I'm doing this a little bit later, so I want to make sure there's a little more light to do it. And yes, so I'm using the Mystical Cat Tarot deck and the Book of Thoth Tarot deck today. So, I got my green tea, my nice little Tokyo mug. Let us begin. So I implore you to take a deep breath with me so we may connect deeper with ourselves and spirit in order to see and hear what we need to know. I call out to Spirit to please help myself and the collective hear, see, and know whatever it is we need to hear, see, and know for this Mercury retrograde season from February 17th to March 10th, I believe it is, 2020, and the shadow period afterwards. So, I'm going to actually start with the Book of Thoth Tarot. Spirit's telling me to start with this. So as usual, I'm just going to kind of freestyle it. I know we have a general idea of what we're doing, so what do you need to be reflecting on? But, take what resonates, leave what doesn't, time and energy are fluid. If something doesn't fit, don't force it. And that is about that. This could go any which direction. It can be love, career, inner work, shadow work, whatever you want to call it. It can go any which way. So I'm guided to do 2 more shuffles. And it's actually a good idea to take a look in your chart and see where what Mercury placement you have. So I know I do have a Taurus Mercury in the 4th house, I think it is. All right, Spirit, what do you have for us? Queen of Wands, the Lovers reversed. Okay. What is this? Lust, which I think this might be the Strength card in this deck. This deck actually has a few cards that are outside of the traditional tarot, which is why I actually I really enjoy using decks that are tarot decks, but they tend to stray from the traditional, I think it's the traditional 78 cards. There's a few extras in here. So we do have, what is that, 4 of Pentacles. At the bottom of the deck, we do have 9 of Cups. I'm actually going to set it here. So. I'm getting a message surrounding a relationship. I feel like the Lovers, while it can indicate decisions, I feel like right now, the main message coming through for this Mercury retrograde season, I'm looking at the 4 of Pentacles, the Lovers reversed, and the 9 of Cups right now. And so what these are speaking to me of, it really has a lot to do with, you can look at it like reevaluating what emotional fulfillment in a relationship looks to you. But what I'm seeing is being able to find a sense of emotional independence within any connection. So whether or not you do have somebody you're talking to or you're in a relationship, I think right now is a good time to let go of codependent behaviors, especially since we're slowing down. So this may indicate, in the context of a relationship, this may indicate essentially a period where the relationship is slowing down, in the sense of, it's almost like, that initial high when you first start, dating somebody, and then that kind of tapers off, and then you both kind of, you kind of level out, and then you guys start to really, really get to know the idiosyncrasies, I think it's called, of people, just the little quirks, you know what I mean? And so I think right now, kind of working out the quirks in the relationship, getting to know the quirks of the relationship, but more so like taking the time to see how you've changed within this relationship period. I'm going to pull a couple more cards here. I want to clarify this Queen of Wands and the Lust in reverse. Okay. Alright, well, Spirit's telling me the same message that came through earlier when I was doing the weekend love readings. Essentially what I'm getting here is, since we do have the Five of Wands, and we do have the Three of Pentacles in reverse, given the context of these cards, I feel like right now is a time to essentially work through the ways in which your ego has been trying to, I wouldn't say sabotage your relationships, but I think in some ways our ego tends to self-sabotage us. And I think a lot of that has to do with getting caught in our own head. And while we don't really have any sword energy on the table, this does feel like a very mental energy. But this does also feel like the energy of two people deciding to work together. Because what I'm being drawn to here with this Five of Wands, so you do have the two wands on each side in the back. And to me this represents the blue and the red of each wand. To me it represents the balance of divine feminine and masculine energies within each person, right? And so you have that in the back, and then you have the main wand in the center. So essentially what I'm getting from this card is two people making the choice to work together to further a foundation that was already pretty solid, a passionate foundation. And so in a sense, given that we're coming out, it seems like this energy of like tapering off of the initial high of starting the relationship, and it's almost like right now is when the real work, not the real work, but that you start putting the elbow grease into maybe work out a few things that you guys have been going through, maybe work out some issues you've been having. But given that we're doing this over the span of, a little bit less than a month, if you include the shadow period over a month, I think right now, over this course of time, it's essentially preparing yourselves individually to work together on a deeper level. And this almost has a spiritual aspect to it, because I have the Queen of Wands up there that I haven't spoken about yet, but it's because it hasn't really spoken to me yet. And so what I'm getting with this Queen of Wands is kind of taming the beast within yourself. And this card to me is like the taming your beast card, if you will. Essentially learning to take reign over the passionate communication you may be having. Except not so much in the sense of like, I'm having a really hard time deciphering this. Sometimes the cards come through pretty clearly, but these cards they're a little ambiguous. This energy feels ambiguous, and I think that actually reflects, instead of me trying to interpret the cards, I'm just going to tell you what I'm feeling, because the cards can mean anything. I think the interpretation is what really comes down to. And so what I'm feeling, I'm like feeling the sense, like I said, the tapering off, right? There's a sense of like you're tapering off from the high of the relationship, and now you're getting to the real like nitty-gritty of planning a deeper foundation with each other. But I guess it's like this sense of trying to see how that aligns with your own spiritual path, and realizing that like your spiritual path will always look different depending on the context. And so it's kind of learning to not lose sight of your own spiritual nature, learning to not lose sight of your own life path and just your own life purpose through this relationship. That makes a lot more sense. I'm gonna actually clarify. I'm gonna clarify each of these. Honestly, why not? I'm gonna use a cat tarot deck. See, the thing I notice when I do certain types of readings, if I keep it very general and broad, it's like a story unfolds as I'm pulling the cards, because I'm not asking questions. And so it's like, to me, as I'm going through this, I'm seeing a timeline of events. And so let's see where this is going based on these clarifications. Okay. We have the Ace of Pentacles reversed. We have the Two of Wands reversed. We have the Empress, Four of Swords, Five of Wands reversed, the Star, and the Sky Kitten in reverse, with Nine of Pentacles at the bottom of the spread. Yeah. So I feel like right now, because now it's taking on the undertone of, like, it's like the timeline I'm seeing, or just this kind of path of events and phases of events I'm seeing. It's like I see like this picture of like the couple and the relationship, or whether it's a situationship or whatever it is. It's coming to this boiling point, and this relationship is forcing you to look at yourself in a different light, and it's kind of asking you to take a look at how you've been going about things, and whether that's going to be conducive to furthering that spiritual foundation that was coming up earlier with this Five of Wands down here. And so what I'm seeing, because we do have the Ace of Pentacles and the Two of Wands in reverse with the Empress and the Four of Swords, what this speaks to me about is essentially taking the time to really focus on developing a deeper sense of self-care, developing a deeper sense of, I guess, catering to like your divine feminine nature. And I feel like that's why you're both kind of taking this time to understand each other on a deeper level as you relate to each other's spiritual paths. Because oftentimes these types of relationships, they do tend to take on a very spiritual nature for a lot of us that I know that a lot of people that do watch these readings and people I've spoken to on Instagram. That's usually how things like this go. And then what I find interesting though is we do have the Five of Wands reversed. We did have it in the upright here, but we had the Star and the Nine of Pentacles. And so I feel like right now, it's just really just guiding you deeper into yourself. And so it's like this relationship is serving as the catalyst to guide you deeper into yourself. And this is the reason this Mercury Retrograde is slowing down. And so it's like this mechanism I'm watching. And it's like this machine. The machine is called self-growth. And the product is you becoming a better person. And the cogs within the wheel of the machine are essentially you two in this connection and the dynamics within the relationship, which have so many different avenues that you could go down. And essentially these are all working together to just bring you both to a deeper sense of independence and inner peace. And I think by finding that independence and inner peace, you're more, the energy is more conducive to be able to build a deeper foundation with each other. And that just seems to be the main theme that's coming through. And again, this seems to be turning into a love reading, as they usually do when I do these. I'm going to go ahead and pull some clarifiers. I'm being told to use a different deck. I didn't actually plan on using a different deck today, but we're going to go ahead and do that. So we're going to use the Golden Dawn Tarot. I feel like this is one of the most balanced decks I have. It has a nice balance of feminine and masculine energy. The symbolism behind this deck is heavily based on, I guess, like restoring the sacred feminine, if that makes sense. Heavily divine feminine energy, but because it's based in Golden Dawn, which is reminiscent of, mystical Kabbalah, mysticism, stuff of this sort, there is that balance, the yin and yang within this deck. So Spirit is telling me to kind of pull cards for, I guess, ways you can smooth this process of ebbing and flowing within this connection, and how you can better nurture yourself during this retrograde period. So we have the Temperance reverse, Princess of Swords reverse. What is that, Nine of Pentacles? Eight of Pentacles? Sorry. Oh no, it's cut. Eight of Pentacles reverse, Ten of Cups, Four of Cups reverse, the Empress again, and the Lovers upright this time, and the Hermit in reverse. And so now the message is kind of taking on this hue of finding ways that you can both support each other on a deeper level is really what's coming out for me. I'm just really being drawn to the Empress reverse. I'm sorry, the Empress and the Lovers. And we do have the Ten of Cups above the Hermit in reverse. And so what I'm seeing with this, it's like not staying in your head so much and kind of developing a more compassionate and deeper sense of communication within this connection. And in doing so, helping each other become more comfortable with what you're feeling. Because I feel oftentimes when we're able to express it with people we care about, it helps us come to a deeper understanding with what we're feeling than if we were just trying to process it within ourselves. Four of Cups in the reverse, I feel like that kind of talks about changing the way in which you approach emotional processing, because we do have Temperance in reverse and Princess of Swords in reverse next to that. And so essentially not going forward in the same ways of processing your emotions that you might have in the past. And given we're slowing down during this retrograde time, this is going to give you the time to really understand the deeper mechanisms behind your emotions. And I'm also being told, like, understanding your triggers within the relationship. And I think essentially that's kind of why the high may be tapering off, because you're starting to recognize certain triggers that you might not have noticed before, because things were fresh, things were new, you were excited. But now it's coming to the point where, you may be triggering each other's childhood traumas, past traumas, or anything of this sort. And so essentially the energies are really conducive to work together, to work through this, to talk about what you're feeling, and to not really hold each other against the triggers. You know what I mean? Like if somebody's triggered or you trigger somebody, and essentially recognizing where that comes from. Still holding them accountable if they do act out because of that, but not holding them to it just because they get triggers. And it also kind of brings up the point of like not blaming other people for your triggers. So if somebody does trigger you and I can understand if somebody does something terrible, but if it's just something where they're just living their life and it's just something that just somehow triggers you, don't blame them for it. You kind of sit with that and then maybe speak about it. Which is why that's just coming up too, especially because the Eight of Pentacles in reverse. That's the overarching theme, I feel like, of these cards coming out. And it's kind of coming to the end of that unhealthy emotional cycle of projecting your pain onto other people. Especially with a divine partnership or any type of soulmate connection. Even within the context of like family or friendship, this can go any which way that it applies to you. It does not have to be in one context. This is just kind of how it's coming out for me. But yeah, I mean, I think that about sums it up. This is just a quick look into Mercury Retrograde and how you can further nurture yourself. And this seems to be working with another person, whether that feminine energy is within yourself, learning to find that balance within yourself. We're going to go ahead and move on to the Oracle. I don't know, Mercury Retrograde is an interesting time. Interesting energies. I don't know, it's always felt like a nice review session. Because there's like, what's it called? The cliche of like, oh, the ex coming back. And I know I've made memes about that stuff too. I'm just kind of joking around, but I feel like on a deeper level, it's not so much like an ex coming back, but you getting the opportunity to see how much you've grown and to appreciate yourself for how much you've grown, especially if that's in the context of a connection and recognizing how much you've grown past certain triggers. So we're actually going to close this reading with an Oracle card from the Kuan Yin Oracle deck. It's actually starting to get darker, so I'd imagine the lighting's probably changing on the video. So what do you need to hear and know from this Kuan Yin Oracle deck to help guide you through this Mercury Retrograde? The Threshold. Yes. We will be reading this from the book, but I think off the bat, if I remember correctly, this card kind of is an indication of you're going through this rite of passage within your own personal and spiritual growth. So let's see, we have card number 39. It does come out to a 3. Nope. Yes. So, see if I can read this with this lamp. At the threshold you stand. Before you lies a way of being that is beyond fear. It is a sacred passing through a karmic veil into a new life of empowerment, peace, spiritual service to humanity, enjoying your own soul. Congratulations. You are embarking on a phase of deepest soul liberation and a freedom of love that triumphs over fear. It has been quite a journey. Many, many lifetimes and much inner work has been required for you to be able to perceive the light of the divine even underneath the density of fear. You are fast approaching the karmic threshold where you can shift from fear-based to love-based embodiment. This is a sacred and important time where it is wise to surround yourself with those that are able to support you in this love-based reality. In the near future, you will be able to sustain your vibration even amongst beings that are based in fear. And then you will be of even greater service to life, love, and divine power on this planet. For now, allow beloved Kuan Yin to help you connect to the beauty and potency, the love and fearless, endless joy of your own higher self. Do not be disheartened by any old fears that are surfacing. You do not need to create a story out of them. You can just observe them with love and allow them to pass. It is just your inner self releasing any vibration which is not aligned with unconditional love. So sometimes there can be deep testing on the threshold. This is not an exam to be afraid of, but an opportunity to realize your development and to really be secure on a firm inner spiritual foundation before moving forward in your soul service to others through how you live and be on this planet. It is no use in preparing to assist others on a higher scale and moving fear to love if you are still making the transition yourself. Let yourself stabilize in the new vibration, and then your ability to help others will increase naturally with much grace, assistance, and effortlessness. And well done, beloved. There is much love and celebration in the spiritual world about this shift for you. Remember that the only defense ever needed, no matter what the apparent fear or threat, is unconditional love in the heart, which allows for compassion and detachment. You are safe, and you are quickening in your readiness to pass the threshold. Your journey is truly blessed. So I'll include the quick meditation they have. Sit quietly and focus your breath in your heart. Say, I call upon my higher spiritual guides that love me unconditionally. I call upon Kuan Yin who loves me unconditionally. Be with me now, beloveds. I thank you for I thank you for your patience. I thank you for your protection, love, peace, and fun. Namaste. Focus on the light growing in your heart. Allow it to form a brilliant star of light. Focus on that light dropping down into your navel and forming a brilliant star of light there. Then focus on the light rising up to your head and forming a brilliant star of light there. Say, I call upon the divine grace and divine love and divine power and divine wisdom that I am. I call upon my own mastery. I call upon the unconditionally loving guidance that supports me in crossing the karmic threshold from fear to love. I am open to your help in making the spiritual transition according to the perfection of divine timing, beloveds. Wait, did I read that wrong? No, that was just a really long sentence. I gratefully receive your help. Focus on the 3 stars of light growing within your being, and when you are ready, say, I am love, I am light, I am power divine, so be it. Return to your breath, and when you are ready, open your eyes. You may like to complete the practice with the prayer below. No prayer. But, yeah, I feel like that's a nice summation of everything we were talking about. It feels like this Mercury retrograde, just based on I'm recording this on the first day, actually, on the 17th, and the energies, it was a huge energy shift. I really feel like just coming from last night into today, it feels like, especially with Saturn approaching Aquarius, we do have Saturn in the last throes of Capricorn, and so it's feeling like this kind of Aquarius season is almost over too. We're moving into Pisces season, and so the energies are just feeling a bit more serious, if that makes sense. And so I kind of really getting down. Like, we kind of had this fun, like Aquarius season was fun, it was kind of flowy, and it was great. It was a fun time. It was kind of just like mystical, and now we're getting to this point. Well, we are going to be moving into Pisces, which arguably is more dreamy and mystical. But I'm feeling like right now with this Mercury retrograde in particular, it's feeling like a good time to get real with ourselves, a good time to realize that it just feels like we're entering a new phase of our own spiritual growth, and recognizing like we don't always have to do that alone. I think that's a big thing that comes through for a lot of these readings. It's like, it can be scary going into spiritual growth, different higher levels of your own personal path when you don't necessarily like have any kind of guideline to go through it, because everybody's path is so different. I mean, you can like get guidance from so many different sources, but a lot of the times only you really know what's good. And I think that was a big reason why the reading came out the way it did. You know, I was kind of picking up on the story of somebody that has the opportunity to work with somebody close with them, to support them on this path of learning and growing, because it can be scary when you're becoming the best, even better of your, when you're becoming an even better version of yourself. You know, when you go into like Phoenix Rising mode and you're just shedding layers and layers of who you used to be, it's like you're getting to know yourself again, but you're getting to know the real you. And within that, you have people get to know the real you too. And I think that's kind of not only the individual theme that I was picking up on, but the theme within a connection or relationships or just love or however you want to apply that, reaching that deeper sense of understanding of each other's spiritual paths. And it was a beautiful energy. It was really supportive, compassionate, and conducive to just individual and collective growth. But that actually concludes this collective reading. Spirit doesn't really have much else for me to say, so thank you all so much for joining. If you'd like to book a personal reading, send me an email to jazargoshepard@gmail.com, or you can find me on Instagram at jazargoshepard. I do have all the details down in the description. I love you all so much. I wish you a blessed Mercury retrograde. Try not to be too afraid of a lot of the fear-mongering that's out there from the retrograde energies, and just be cautious, you know, double check everything, take things slow, take things at your own pace. But all in all, just know that you're loved and protected by the divine and your spirit guides, and you have loved ones in your life. It sounds like you're very supportive of your spiritual growth. So I know you're going to do great. But yeah, take care. I'll see you in the next reading. Bye.